If you look at Little Feet, you'll see Nico and Lana, kind of living the longest day of their lives like children do. Just, how like a child's sense of time of a day is can last a lifetime. And as an adult, it just goes by in a flicker. Whereas this is the next stage. It's about 5 years later. It's a more ambitious film. It's more involved. It's a longer film. It's a feature film, a full feature. And it's about a stage of life where some of their poetry of their earlier years are kind of in conflict and coming into a collision course with the adult world. Both of their parents are struggling and going through difficult times, and these kids have to make it on their own. They run away and they try to retain their childhood and some of the poetry of their childhood. And I think they succeed in many ways in Sweet Thing. This particular story means a lot to me. I had, like a lot of people, had some challenges in their childhood. And I think when your child, the loneliness of childhood isn't described very often. And the privacy and honoring the kids. A lot of times when people make films about kids, they look down at kids or they try to imagine what a kid is from an adult world. I wanted to get on my knees when I made this film and see the world through the child's experience. And it's really important to me. It's a really important time of my life. I'm digesting. It's funny because after the fact, when I look at the footage, I see moments in my life that I infused into this little 15-year-old girl's life. It was really an honor for me to be able to articulate these things that were fascinating to me and curious to me. And only in retrospect, as I'm cutting the film, do I really see how deeply personal it is to me. And I think sometimes when you make something very personal, it becomes personal to other people. Because when you don't worry about how they're going to take it or how they're going to receive it, or try to dilute it by, what do people think of this or what is it about, but you speak from your heart and you speak from a real truth that was personal to you, I think it really crosses into other people's lives and other people's childhoods. Hopefully it does that. I'm really proud of that, and I feel very connected to it. But I shot it in Super 16 because I love the feeling of film, and there's a kind of economy and a beauty in the organic nature of the film stock that I think really has a timeless kind of like dreamlike quality to it, which I think was really great for this time of their lives where they're kind of coming into their own as children in their memories and their dreams. This is the second time I've been able to work with my family. And when you look at Little Feet, you'll see Nico at 5 years old, you'll see Lana at about 8 years old. And for me to have made a film with the same two kids, Nico being 11 and Lana being 14, is kind of miraculous. It's kind of wonderful to see them side by side. You see how much they've grown. It was a little bit scary to do it because I had no idea if they would be any good. I took a big chance, but they pulled through. They were just amazing. Nico's like a little Marlon Brando, and Lana's like a, Ava Gardner or something. I watched her become a woman in front of my eyes when we made this film. She matured. She really found herself making this film. I've always benefited from working with the students because they kind of we do experiments, and it kind of gets me all excited about cinema again, and we try things. It's kind of like learning scales when you're playing the piano. You can always go back to your scales, and it's really helped me to work with film and my students. And actually we shoot on film a lot at NYU. And I worked with them on this film. Many of my students came, and due to kind of commitment to me and shooting on film and the love of the project, they also grew right in front of my eyes. And I would, the word amateur versus professional, it's in French it means for the love of it instead of being inexperienced. Every single person who worked on this film did it for the love of it, and it was really fantastic. Will was actually nervous at first. He was saying, well, why don't you play it? Well, when you see Will's performance, you'll know why. It was a night and day difference to have Will play the father. He's fantastic. And so I was working with non-actors and actors together in some pretty incredible, pretty exciting scenes with people we'd find off the street. And Will's such an amazing actor, he would just do it with them. And this has a real natural arc. It's a real journey these kids take. In Little Feat, it was a real simple journey. It was some kids taking a goldfish to the river to set it free, and they ended up at the ocean. This film takes you through seasons. It starts in the winter. They live with their father. They live with their mother, and they kind of run away from home, and they live on the road. And they all come together at the end, and it ends, as most of my films do, on the beach. But so it's a much more ambitious film. It's a bigger journey.